So, what makes you get out of bed in the morning? I mean, really, what drives someone to climb a mountain or, get this, run a marathon while carrying a brick? Yeah, that's a real thing. Today, we're diving into motivation, that invisible engine behind every single thing we do, from the totally normal to the truly bizarre.
All right, so instead of boring you with some textbook definition, let's start with a puzzle. A human puzzle, really. We're going to talk about a guy named Suresh Joachim. And trust me, he holds some of the weirdest world records you've ever heard of.
Seriously, what on earth drives a person to do, this?
Okay, so Suresh has dozens of these Guinness World Records for things that are, let's just say, a little unusual. We're talking about the longest escalator ride, the longest couples dance marathon, and yep, even running the farthest distance while carrying a 4.5 kilo brick. I have to ask, what could possibly motivate someone to do that? So, his official reason, it's actually pretty noble. He says he does it to raise money for schools in need. But, this brings up a really big question. Is his real driver that external goal, the money? Or is there something else, something deeper, pushing him from the inside? And that question right there, is it coming from the inside or the outside? That is the most fundamental way we start to break down and classify motivation. Okay, so on one side, you've got what's called intrinsic motivation. This is when you do something just for the pure joy of it. It's personally rewarding. Think about a hobby you absolutely love. Nobody's paying you, you just do it. Then, on the other side, you have extrinsic motivation. This is all about doing something for an external reward, like money or praise, or maybe to avoid getting in trouble. It's the classic carrot and stick, right? And this is a perfect example of pure, raw, intrinsic motivation. This is William Kamkwamba. At just 15 years old, he literally scavenged scrap parts from a junkyard to build this incredible windmill, all to power his family's home in Malawi. Get this, he taught himself how to do it from library books he could barely even read. There was no reward waiting for him. Nobody was telling him he had to do it. It was just his own powerful curiosity and this deep need to solve a problem. Just amazing. But of course, life is rarely that black and white, right? It's not always so simple. So, what happens when that clean line between inside and outside motivation starts to get a little blurry? Okay, so take this example. In Sri Lanka, a lot of students choose to study things like science or math. But it's not always because they love the subjects. A lot of the time, it's because of some really intense pressure from their parents and from society as a whole. So that's clearly an external pressure, right? But here's the thing. It drives incredible, persistent hard work. And this is where we get to a more nuanced idea, something called autonomous motivation. Basically, this is what happens when an external pressure, like trying to make your parents happy, slowly becomes your own goal. You start to find personal value in it. You internalize it. And suddenly, that external push transforms into a real internal drive. Now, the flip side of that is what we call controlled motivation. In this case, your behavior is still being regulated by those external factors, rewards, punishments, or maybe even a subconscious need to avoid feeling ashamed or to get approval from others. Your actions are, essentially, being controlled by outside forces, whether you fully realize it or not. So, to really get a handle on all these complex drivers, psychologists have to look beyond just a simple inside versus outside model. They use a kind of toolkit with 4 core theories. You can think of them as 4 different engines that help explain what gets us up and moving. All right, those 4 lenses are need theories, drive theories, incentive theories, and cognitive theories. Now, it's really important to understand that these aren't competing ideas. It's not like one is right and the others are wrong. They're just different tools in that same toolkit, each helping us understand behavior from a slightly different angle. Okay, first up, we've got need theories. This one's pretty straightforward. It's all about our motivation to fulfill fundamental needs. This starts with the really basic physical stuff, food, water, safety. But it also includes those crucial psychological and social needs, like the deep-seated need to belong, to have friends, to feel connected. All right, next are the drive theories. Now, this idea is that we're motivated by an internal state of, irritation. Think about the feeling of hunger. It's an annoying, nagging feeling, right? That irritation creates a drive that pushes us to act, in this case, to go find some food, all so we can get rid of that annoying feeling and get back to a state of balance.
But see, we're not just pushed from the inside by these drives. That's where incentive theories come in. They show how we're also pulled from the outside. This explains perfectly why you might grab a delicious piece of cake even when you're totally full from dinner. You're not hungry, there's no drive, but that cake is an incentive, and it's just pulling you toward it.
And finally, we have cognitive theories. This is where our rational, thinking brain really comes into play. These theories look at motivation as a product of active, conscious thought. We're not just reacting to needs and drives, we're weighing information, we're looking back at past experiences, and we use all of that data to set future goals and make deliberate choices. Okay, so what? Why does any of this matter? Well, believe me, this isn't just some dry academic theory. Understanding these different drivers has absolutely huge, real-world applications. I mean, these theories are used everywhere. Think about it. In marketing, they're used to figure out your buying habits. In education, they help design classrooms that actually keep students engaged. And in the business world, they're the foundation for leadership, for keeping teams productive, for inspiring people to do their best work. They're everywhere. Really, it all boils down to this one core idea. Motivation is the study of goal-directed behavior. At the end of the day, if you want to understand why people, any people, do the things they do, you have to start by understanding what drives them. It's that simple. So now you have the toolkit. You've got need, drive, incentive, and cognition. And you can use these tools to analyze the world around you, for sure. But the real question is, what happens when you turn that toolkit on yourself? So take a second. Look at your own goals, your own habits. What's really driving you?